It's one of the hardest things that I have ever had to figure out. How to manage my home and my homeschool while having a chronic illness at the same time and managing that. And I'm going to tell you some of my biggest tips on how to do that. Hey friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Mandy, the handmade homeschooler. Today I'm talking about managing homeschooling when you're sick. And I'm not talking like when you just have the flu or the cold. I'm talking about the type of sick where you're sick for a long time or you have a chronic illness. And after being chronically ill for the last, I want to say 6 years, I'm starting to get into a groove, and it's hard because it feels like it changes all the time, and different seasons bring different types of routines, and I really have to figure things out as I go. But I'm going to give you some tips on how I'm able to do that. I get a lot of questions about this because a lot of you know that I deal with this issue a lot. There are times even when for weeks at a time I'll disappear from YouTube just because I'm battling it again, and the only thing I can do is just the very, very basics of life. So I'm going to give you some of my biggest tips on how I manage that and how I do that long term. So first and foremost, I am totally, completely, 100% reliant on God. Absolutely 100. If this experience has taught me anything, it is that I have zero control over anything and God has 100% control over everything. And the only way that I'm going to survive day to day is if I trust Him, if I lean on Him, and I depend on Him to get me through to the following day. I have come to the realization that through His sovereignty, and the doctrine of sovereignty has changed my life. Absolutely 100% changed my entire life. And I owe that to Christ, and I owe that, in big part to my church for teaching that and for helping me understand where I fall in line with this whole thing. And if you are chronically ill and if you are a believer, I highly recommend studying the doctrine of sovereignty. And there's several books that I have always recommended to. I'll try to link those below in the description for you. I'll try to remember to do that while I'm editing this video. But there are several books that really helped me along the way with that, and especially when things are really, really hard. There are several resources that have just helped me immensely. Okay, so to do that, basically my tip is to pray every single day, to know that God is in control and behave like He is in control. Don't try to control things that you can't. There's just very little that we are in control of. And I have realized that I am reliant on God for my next breath. So giving that to Him was the biggest thing that changed my life. So my next tip is exercise. Okay, and when I say exercise, I know people are just groaning. Just hold on. I have the body of somebody much older than me because of my condition. I have a lot of autoimmune issues going on. I have lupus, I have rheumatoid arthritis, I have ankylosing spondylitis, which in a nutshell means my spine is fusing together. But I still exercise daily, sometimes more than once. And that for me, exercise is absolutely essential because I am in a move it or lose it situation. If I don't work out, if I don't exercise, then I will lose my mobility in about 10 years. So I have to make sure that I am mobile, and that I am mobile a lot, because the minute I stop, things get bad. And actually my condition will worsen day to day if I don't move. Like my body like will force me to move because I will be in a lot of pain. So I feel better when I exercise, but at the same time, I know that exercising in chronic illness a lot of times is a good thing, even if you can only walk. One of the things that we recently invested in was a walking pad. Now, this is basically like the bottom portion of a treadmill. It's literally the tread that you walk on, and some of them have a bar. I ended up getting one with a bar just because of my illness and, you know, just the way that my body is now, just for safety purposes. But you don't even have to have that. These things sometimes can fold even. You can put them up against a wall. I just have mine in my living room, and I can sit there and watch television while I walk. And it's a great way for me to walk without having to be outside because I got lupus and I can't do the sun anymore. So it's a great way for me to get some exercise while being inside and doing something light that I feel like my body can handle. Now, I also do spin classes and I'm starting to do strength training, but I do very, very modified type versions of these things. So, you know, it's almost worse than when I was really big, because I used to be morbidly obese. Some of you know that I was a very big girl a long time ago. I lost half my body weight, and luckily my conditions have improved just because I'm not that big anymore. But it has helped me, being chronically ill, to keep moving. Even if it's just small movement, just keep moving. Now, of course, I'm going to put like a disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am not your doctor. So make sure that you talk to your doctor about movement, and if you can do that, and if you can't, then don't do it. If it's not good for you, don't do it, of course. But for me personally, movement has been one of the best things for me and has probably prolonged my life. The next is eating on plan. I have so many of you messaging me all the time about my diet. Yes, just for the record, yes, I eat a anti-inflammatory diet. It is the most restrictive diet I think that is out there. There is a very small list of things that I can eat, and I have been doing this for about 6 months now, and I have seen a huge change in my mobility, in my health all around. Like, it's basically stopped my migraines. And you guys know I've been dealing with migraines my entire life. Yeah, my migraines are gone. And it was my diet, because my diet was inflaming everything. It was even inflaming my ears. I'm not even kidding. My ears were inflamed. So I went on this diet. It's called the Autoimmune Protocol Diet, or AIP. It's very restrictive, very, very restrictive. I'm not even drinking coffee. I'm drinking black tea with a little bit of coconut milk in it. And it's very, very difficult to stay on this plan long term. But for me, I feel best when I'm on plan and when I'm eating healthy and when I'm eating things that are good for my body. So it's a combination of the medication that the doctors give me plus my diet. It's kind of like this, you know, 50-50 hand-in-hand type of thing that seems to work really well with me. So I feel much better than I did in January because I'm eating on plan. And eating on plan has allowed me to do things like be mobile and exercise and do things like that. But I have to eat on plan. So eating healthy has been really, really, really beneficial for me all the way around, and has given me more good days than bad days. Always be prepared. Prepare ahead of time. Stuff with homeschooling, prepare it when you're feeling good. And that's one of my biggest tips in life in general, is just be prepared. Prepare things when you have time and when you're feeling really well. If you are chronically ill like I am, if you're having a good day, take a little bit of time, take 5 or 10 minutes and just prepare something just in case. And I know it makes me sound like I have serious anxiety, and sometimes I do. Sometimes I do have serious anxiety from all of this stuff because I always have to think ahead, but I'm telling you, it works. That type of being prepared or preparedness has helped me very, very much some days, where I am just so thankful that there are days I'm just so thankful that I took 10 minutes, 3 or 4 days ago to prepare all of the week's stuff. And it saved my life. So, you know, especially when your kids are young and maybe they need a little bit more help. One of the things that I did was I had a 10 drawer cart, and when they were young, I used to prepare the entire week's stuff in those 10 drawer carts, and each drawer was worksheets for the entire week labeled Monday through Friday. And I tore them out of the workbooks and I just had them in the 10 drawer cart and anything that they needed. So if it was like art materials, manipulatives, anything like that, I had it all together. And I did not even have to think about it. And the kids, after a while, got to the point where like they could just go to their drawer, get their stuff out, and take it to their desk and do the work. It was fantastic. Even my kid who was in like first grade was able to just walk over to his cart. He knew by like 3 or 4 weeks into the school year what cart was what. And we just went 1 through 10 in order. And it was awesome. It was one of the best things that I ever did. Next, don't plan too far ahead with school. If you are chronically ill and you know that sometimes you might relapse or you might have flares like I do, there are times that you are out of commission, I caution you, just from my own experience, planning like 6 months ahead of time. I did that. It was really bad. It was like one of the worst mistakes I made in homeschooling, and I did it the very first year I started homeschooling. I planned literally the entire year out in pen in my notebook, and my homeschool planner looked like a mess by the end of the year. It was like unsalvageable. It was so bad. I felt really silly. I felt really, really silly, but you live and you learn. You do. You live and you learn, and that was a mistake on my part. Prepping food. Okay, if you're chronically ill, one of the best things to do is to have meals prepared ahead of time and something that's easy. So my family, we're one of those crazy families that kind of eats like all organic, and like we eat a lot of fresh food, but there are some things that I can do to prep meals for like the freezer that we can just like pop in the oven, or that we can have like sitting in the freezer that's ready to go. I always have like extra, I have to make all of our bread myself because I have a child who can't tolerate sugar, and store-bought bread just has so much sugar in it. So I use a bread maker, and I use our own ingredients, and I use a sugar that he can tolerate, which is coconut sugar, and I make our own bread. So I always have like an extra loaf of bread in the freezer. I will always have things done ahead of time just in case I get sick. If I ever have a bad week, I can just go in the freezer, pull out what I need, and it's already done. So I have like emergency meals made ahead of time. That has been a lifesaver sometimes for me. And I don't know if I'll ever get out of the habit of doing that, just because I know how much it helps sometimes. You know, and even when you're busy, just like a busy season of life, these things can save you. They can save you a lot of stress, a lot of headaches. My last tip is to just have a plan for your sick days. Just know that if you're chronically ill, it's gonna happen. You know, it might only happen once a year, but at some point, you might flare like I do, or you might have a relapse in your illness, or there are just going to be days where you just can't do it, you know, like you just feel like you can't function. And I think we all have those days, whether we're chronically ill or not. We all have those days. For me, one of the best things to do is to just have a plan. Like, okay, on my sick days, this is how school is going to work. And if there is another parent in your house, like me, I have my husband. You know, I'm very blessed that my husband is now retired from the military. He's been retired for only a couple years now, but he just retired from the military, and he's here with me. So if I need help, thankfully he's here now. But it wasn't always like that. You know, it was just me for most of our school time. So I had to have a plan in place for when I was sick and what I would do. If your kids are young, kind of talk about it with your kids too, and say, okay, this is how it's going to run if mommy is sick. And if your kids are older, then, you know, it actually makes life a lot easier. As my kids have gotten older, school has gotten easier because they work a little bit more independently, but it still happens, you know? So one of the best things I can tell you is just to have a plan and be prepared for those days, and just know that those days are gonna happen. You don't know when. I mean, I could be feeling great today, and then tomorrow I could be in the hospital. I just never know what life is gonna throw at me, and I just have to be prepared and just know that the Lord is going to get me through, you know, whatever his plan is. That's fine. I just have to have, you know, plans in place for each type of scenario if I need to. A lot of people ask me how I can homeschool and have, you know, 3 major illnesses. You know, you can do it. It's kind of like, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. I'm a very determined person. So, you know, that's just my personality. I forged a way, and I knew that my number one goal in life was to feel better so that I could do this. And I have so far been pretty successful. I still have my bad days, I still have bad weeks, but for the most part, I'm handling it okay. So I just want to put that out there because a lot of people ask me for tips on that, because there's a lot of us. I've realized that there are more and more people realizing they have chronic illnesses, and they're like, how am I going to do this? There is a way to do it. There is a way, I promise you. It just takes a lot of faith, it takes a lot of prayer, and it takes being prepared for a lot of different scenarios, and just knowing how your condition is and being prepared for those circumstances. All right, I pray that this video helped you in some way, and, you know, I know that these tips have been pretty much my entire life the last couple of years. So I really, really hope that they help you in some way in your homeschool. I will see you in the next video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and happy homeschooling.